Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today we have Fabled Infinite Negates using the new support they got. Fabled Marcosia, Fable Anfac, and I used the field spell too. We'll get to that later. What Fabled are all about is just they're kind of synchro-ish and kind of dark worlds in a sense, where they try to discard their own cards, and dark worlds don't necessarily trigger on card effects. Fables can trigger on cost or effect, so that's pretty nice, and they never miss timing either, since they are all mandatory. So pretty much what you're going to do is try to vomit your entire hand out into a couple of synchros. Hopefully one of them is TG Hyper Librarian, so you can just do some really crazy stuff. So we start off against, I do not want to say what this is. I'm not gonna speak. He has a Rhoda, doesn't use it because he's a gamer. He says absorbing jar. I mean, like, I'm honestly just generally confused, but I draw a rescue cat for my top deck, which is one of the main play starters for the deck. If you're able to get a rescue cat and a fabled Ganache or a fabled Crust, you are in a pretty good position where you do end up drawing 5 to 6 cards. Right here I just link some stuff to make space, because I do have a ton of monsters on field. I go to TG Hyper Librarian, and then I can just keep a count on the amount of cards I draw. So I draw one card of TG Hyper Librarian now. I draw a second card of TG Hyper Librarian. I draw one card of Integrator, one card of Stardust Warrior, and one card of Hyper Librarian. That's 5 cards. And since this card deck is all about discarding, you have so much discard fodder. After that, it's insane. So we can go into a copy of Borload Savage Dragon, getting another draw of TG Hyper Librarian, and we can get even more draws, but he just negates that, unfortunately. We can go ahead, activate Jackalope. I set my imperm because I don't really want that to get hit too much. We go ahead and change the type into Wing Beast, so we can go into some more Bird of Sovereignty. We can go into a Union Carrier. And I feel like I probably could have somehow gone into an IP right there, but I mean, he's going to go ahead and die anyways. When he uses absorbing jar, I thought he was using some weird artifact deck, but he's playing brick dot deck. You can't really blame him now, can you? So that was this deck show. This replay is mainly to show the main idea of the deck, where you're trying to just get tons of synchros out, turbo them out with TG Hyper Librarian on the field. You have tons of extenders. You've got tons of cards that you can really use. Fabled is one of my favorite archetypes, just because of how it's just a very, very fun deck to play. And this card right here, Fabled and Dryad, what this does is when it's special summoned, you can activate this effect. You can draw 2 cards and discard a card, but your opponent can discard 1 card to negate it. And when a monster is sent from your opponent's hand to the graveyard, you can summon it to your side of the field. So it has a little bit of synergy, so that it's very nice. So that just shows the main idea of the deck. In case you don't know how Infinite Negates work, you have some more Bird of Sovereignty, and what it says, during your end phase, you can summon 1 Winged Beast monster from your hand or deck, whose level is equal to or higher than the amount of unused spell trap zones. So what you're going to try to do is summon out your copy of Mist Valley Apex Avian, and when you know what, I won't be able to get to that in this replay. I'll be able to explain to you in the next replay now. Right here we have Mystic Mine. He has Pot of Duality. He has DD Guide. Who wants DD Guide anymore? It's probably an old build, honestly. But pretty much we're going first again. As I said, you have Rescue Cat, you have Ganache, you have pretty much everything. So you can go into Crystal Halky Firebrax, get your Plague Spreader, go into Link Cross, some tokens. The ordering doesn't matter too much at this part. But what you're going to do, you're going to discard the Ganache, and now since you have since you can synchro into level 5, you can make TG Hyper Librarian. And right here, I can pretty easily just draw the 5 cards I need. I'm sorry, that would stop there for a minute. But pretty much we're just going to draw cards. It's similar to last time where we did just do a lot of stuff. We're gonna go ahead summon Fabled Marcosia. This is another new card. What it says, if it's in your hand, you can discard up to 2 monsters, so you have the option of discarding 2. You can summon it, and pretty much it's just a nice card, similar to cards like Fabled Chiwa and Fabled Nezuchi, where both of them are some of the most important Fabled cards, since they are able to just summon themselves for free. And what Marcosia does, if it is discarded by a card effect, you can add 1 to Fabled spell trap, so you're usually just going to be searching the field spell. And another card that I probably should have talked about is another new one, Fabled Afank, where it says in the graveyard you can discard 1 Fabled and then you can summon it, which is very special about it. Not a lot of Fables have that effect, but it is one of the best Fabled cards right now in my opinion, even though it's just a 2-off, because you're usually going to be summoning it off something like a Crystron Halki Fibrax or something. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go use our Mori, get a search for Crust. We're gonna go ahead, draw some cards off our Crocodile, draw some off that. We can go ahead and summon a Nezuchi, so use Crust to get the Grimro. We're just gonna go ahead, get even more draws, get even more advantage. Just absolutely absurd. We're discarding the Kushano right here, just so that we don't want to trigger any of our Fables right now, because our zones were clogged up. Right here we can extend even more if we like. I'm just choosing not to overextend too much. Desynchro, the main reason why I play Desynchro is because it's literally an upstart goblin for free if you control TG Hyper Librarian. Because you can just make the card again. So we're going to go ahead, go into Crusader Abramax, and right here I'll explain the Infinite Negate combo. So you saw that I summoned Miss Valley Apex Avion off my Simorgh, and I equipped Miss Valley Thunderbird to the Simorgh. So what Apex Avion reads is that once per chain, when your opponent activates a card or effect, you can bounce back a Miss Valley card to negate it. And what Thunderbird says, when when this card is bounced back, you can summon it. So since Thunderbird will always come back to the field, you can infinitely loop both of them, so you can infinitely negate stuff. If your opponent tries to change something like Cosmic Cyclone, since Miss Valley Apex Avion is once per chain, you can just use Borlo's Savage Dragon to negate things in higher chains. And if your opponent tries to just attack over Thunderbird, that is where Crusadia Abramax comes in, where all attacks are redirected towards it. Just honestly, the end board is just absolutely absurd. Not a lot of decks can out it that easily, unless they're playing like droplets, which in case I don't know how to help you in that case. But it is pretty nice. Your opponent can't target anything here due to your Simorgh Bird of Sovereignty. And he's going to try to use Pot of Duality. I'm just going to negate it once again. And he has DD Guide. He just surrender. He knows there's no way he can win. I was going to top deck Nezuchi. Once again, very powerful card. And that just showed the Infinite Negate combo right there. Let's go to the third replay now. Right here we are up against UA. Using new support, I think UA are pretty fun with the new support. They have one interruption in the form of Infinite Impermanence. We've opened, you know, it's just a coincidence I opened Rescue Cat. You can do all of these plays even without Rescue Cat. It's not that necessary. But we're going to go ahead and do some plays right here. He's going to imperm the Crystron Halki Fibrax. But that doesn't make too big of a difference. It will definitely hurt our plays quite a bit, but we should still be able to get away with some stuff. We're going to go ahead and use Nezuchi, getting some stuff in the graveyard. The main reason why I use Nezuchi, so we get the second Afank in our graveyard, and now we can go into TG Hyper Librarian. I decided to use my Nessie right here, getting a Jackalope, and Jackalope will go ahead. I use Jackalope specifically so that we can deck thin a bit. We're not going to draw as many cards as we should, but as I said, Desynchro is basically Upstart Goblin for the deck. We draw an extra card since TG Hyper Librarian's on the field, and we're going to just refill our entire hand with a Crocodile. Just 100% fair, isn't it? So we're going to be discarding 2 for Marcosia, and then we can get some stuff. He decides to discard 1 to negate the effect of Marcosia, but since he discarded monster, I can just bring that card back. I'm going to use Crocodile's effect. What I did there, I discarded 2 cards. I believe it was Fabled Ganassia and a copy of Fabled Crust, if I remember correctly. I'm pretty sure I just discarded 2 in order to destroy his rival Rebounder, and since discarding would trigger my Fables, that's just a neat interaction I really like. Just discarding my own Fables for a Croc Dragon. That's why Croc Dragon is one of my most favorite cards in this deck. But as I said, we're just going to go into some more, summoning more stuff. Going into Union Carrier, which will be equipping a copy of Thunderbird, setting the Call by Grave, and summoning the Apex Avian. Not a very high chance of him winning right here. He goes ahead and uses Extravagance. I will bounce back the Thunderbird to negate it, and he will proceed to concede. If you're wondering why he couldn't just normal summon the Nibiru Spiker and then attack over my Thunderbird, I still had 2 negates in the form of my Mist Valley Apex Avian and Borreload Savage Dragon, which would just negate his next 2 cards, on top of a Call by Grave if he tries to do any graveyard shenanigans. There was no way for him to win at that point. So I guess we'll go to the deck profile now. Right here we have the deck. I'll just give a quick overview. The deck is very consistent. It's got tons of draw cards. It's got tons of permutations of the hands you need to do full combo. Just a very nice deck. The end boards are really absurd. It can play maybe through 1 or 2 hand traps, but it does have a difficult time playing through those hand traps though. Maybe one more thing that it does lack is, say, the potential to go second. It can't really do anything going second, honestly. Yes, you can draw a few cards, that's neat, but you don't really have any major way to break boards, if you get what I mean. Crusadia Avermax is a super solid card that not a lot of decks can out, but I just feel that having Avermax as your main card isn't going to help too much. Going second is just a very big hassle for this deck, honestly. So you just gotta hope you can OTK by getting up big beaters like Borreload Savage Dragon and Croc Dragon on the field. So I'll go over the deck. First off, we had Mist Valley Apex Avian. This is your main Infinite Negate tool along with Mist Valley Thunderbird. 1 copy of Danger Nessie. We're running 3 dangers, Nessie, Tsuchinoko, and Jackalope. A problem with the dangers, I mean, it's not a big of a problem, honestly. It's honestly a niche case where sometimes bad luck can just get the better of you. It's when you draw a danger and your Mist Valley. For some reason, every time I draw both of them, I don't discard any other card of the dangers. I literally only just discard the Mist Valley Apex Avian or Thunderbird in my win conditions. So dangers, they are very important for the deck though, as they do trigger your Fabled, which is very important. 3 copies of Fabled Grimrow. This is basically the rota for the deck, where if you control a face-up Fabled monster, you can search any other Fabled monster. So it can adapt to the situation, and this is kind of your main adaptation tool. The deck is pretty adaptable, by the way, because it has tons of options to go into. 3 copies of Fabled Marcosia, another new one. Discarding other cards to summon itself, similar to Nizuchi and Chiwa, is super powerful, especially because you can discard up to 2 monsters. And unlike Nizuchi and Chiwa, you can it also has a effect when it's discarded, where you can search one Fabled spell trap card, i.e. Stairway to the Fabled World, because we don't really run anything else. 1 copy of your rescue, 3 copies of your rescue cat. This is your main starter because all of your monsters are beasts, so that's pretty important. It also helps you just go into an early needle fiber. 3 copies of Fabled Ganassia. We have a couple of cards like Fabled Ganassia, such as Fabled Cerebral and Fabled Crust, where when they go to the graveyard, they can summon themselves, or in Crust's case, another card from the graveyard. But Ganassia is especially important since it's a level 3 non-tuner, and if you have something like a Fabled Fank, you can go into TG Hyper Librarian. 1 copy of your Tsuchinoko. As I said, it's a level 3 extender, just like your Ganassia, and on top of that, it's a danger discarding other cards, which is of course really great. 1 copy of Fabled Kishano. The main reason why I only run 1 copy is because you're usually just going to be getting rid of it by your effect of Stairway, and not that great, honestly. It actually is pretty decent in the fact that in case your monster zones are clogged up, then you can just save other Fabled effects in your hand for later, which is kind of a nice thing about it, where it delays some effects. So that's a neat thing about it, but you're usually just going to be sending it to the graveyard off your Stairway to the Fabled World. So that's the reason why I just play it as a one-off. 1 copy of your Danger Jackalope. It's similar to why the other Dangers are here, especially Tsuchinoko, since it's a level 3 extender, and and it discards cards. It's a must-have. 3 copies of Nozuchi. Nozuchi, it's got multiple applications. One notable one is that since it's a level 2 non-tuner, you can use it and a Stardust Charge Warrior that you summon using Metal Marcher. So it's a tuner now. You can use it and the Charge Warrior in order to go into Savage Dragon, which is one of your main ways to go into Savage Dragon. Nozuchi also discards a Fable to summon itself, which is very important. And on top of that, when it's summoned, you can summon another Fabled. So if you have any tuners like your Fabled Fank and your Fabled Cerebral, Fabled Chiwa, any of those cards, you can go into Halki Fibrax, which is very nice. 3 copies of Fabled Crust. Crust is Crust. When it's discarded, you can summon another Fabled from your graveyard. So it does help control the levels that you summon, unlike your Ganasha and your Cerebral, where you get to select what card you summon specifically. So depending on the situation, as I said, this deck is pretty adaptable. So in case you need like a level 2 non-tuner for Borlord Savage Dragon, you got that. In case you need an extra level for Croc Dragon, you got that. In case you need a way to go into TG Hyper Librarian, you got that. So Crust is just a very important card to have, because it really does help control your options. With 2 copies of your Fank, as I did say, it's a very important card, but I'd say 2 copies are enough, because usually you're only going to be, it's a hard one to return, which is it's a hard one to return unlike other Fabled effects, and it also just, it's kind of graveyard reliant, where you do need other cards like Nozuchi or your Marcosia for the trigger, or your Dangers. So kind of more of a 2-off. Honestly, it can just turn into a 3-off. It's very good as a 3-off, but it's basically Fabled Kushano, except it special summoned itself instead of adding to your hand. So that's something you can consider running a Fank as a 3-off. That is a very good consideration too, just because of how powerful it is. So 3 Fank, 2 Fank, it doesn't matter too much, honestly. 3 copies of your Cerebral. Cerebral is basically a level 2 tuner, which when it's discarded you summon it, kind of similar to Ganasha, so you can go into cards like your TG Hyper Librarian. 1 copy of your Plague Spreader, for it's your main Halki Fibrax target. In case you're not using Plague Spreader, you're going to be summoning your Fank instead, just because it's such a good card. It's also a tuner, so you can summon it off your Halki Fibrax. You can use it to make Halki Fibrax, which is a very good card. 3 copies of Chiwa. This says you can discard 1 Fabled, summon it. What makes it kind of better than Nozuchi is the fact that it is a tuner, so you can go into Halki Fibrax for free, but just a very nice card. The Fables that can summon themselves are especially good from the hand or the graveyard. They're just really nice. 2 copies of Desynchro. The main reason why I'm only running 2 is it's kind of like an upstart goblin, but it does rely on you controlling a TG Hyper Librarian. So just it's kind of just a 2-off, honestly. 1 copy of your Called by the Grave. This is for hand traps. 1 copy of Stairway to the Fabled World. This is mainly to send Kushano so that you have a way to delay your so that you have a way to control the timing of your Fabled effects, in case because it is very easy to clog up your monster zones. So 1 copy of Stairway to the Fabled World for sure. Another thing, its second effect. I don't use a second effect too much, honestly, but says you can discard 2 cards and add 1 Fabled monster from your graveyard to your hand. It comes up sometimes, not too much, honestly. 3 copies of Perm, just best hand trap. For the extra deck, we have run 1 copy of Croc Dragon. Croc Dragon has tons of application. 1, you can draw cards on top of drawing cards with TG Hyper Librarian. You've got tons of low levels and levels that can synchronize, so you can easily draw 2 to 3 cards off this, and on top of that, with the draws of Hyper Librarian, you're basically refilling your entire hand after you vomit it out, so that is very powerful. On top of that, you usually use its effect on your own turn. You heard me right. You use Croc Dragon's effect on your own turn to pop your own card, because since you're discarding 2 cards, you can discard Fables, and that will trigger the Fabled effects, probably generating more advantage than the advantage you lost of destroying your own card. 1 copy of Fabled and Dryad. This is really good, as if your opponent only has monsters in their hand, or if they don't want to discard the spells they have in their hand, they're going to have to summon, give up one of their monsters to summon to our own field. And usually your opponent will be forced to negate it, mainly because they're not going to be letting a card that just says draw 2, discard 1 in a Fabled deck specifically to resolve. So one Fabled and Dryad for sure. One copy start is Charge Warrior. I honestly play Charge Warrior over your Coral Dragon. I just like it more, honestly. It's nothing much, but the fact that it's able to get you your draw after your unsummon is something I like a lot, just cause it helps chain block some things sometimes. And if you want, you can change this off for Coral Dragon, because Coral Dragon has the ability to just synergize more with your Fables, discarding and popping. And honestly, it's just up to choice. Whether you want to run Charge Warrior or your Coral Dragon, I feel that the OTK potential that Charge Warrior has, where it can attack all of your opponent's special summon monsters, doesn't come up too much, but Coral Dragon is just another option you have. So do keep that in mind. One copy of TG Hyper Librarian. You're going to be drawing like 5 cards off this. 2 copies, 1 copy of Fabled Dragon. This says usually you're going to be vomiting your entire hand out, so Fabled Dragon is another great card to have. Where when synchro summon, if you have 1 or less card, you can draw until you have 2 cards. So that's pretty neat. 1 copy of your Fabled Cyberse Integrator. This is another draw card, or if it's sent to the graveyard, you can draw a card. And Metal Marcher. Metal Marcher helps you recur any of your tuners, so that you can use it and another token to go into your Cyberse Integrator, then link Synchro Climb, as I call it, and then just draw even more cards off your TG Hyper Librarian. Just a pretty insane card. 1 copy of your Mekk-Knight Crusadia Avramax. This is your main way to protect your Thunderbird while it's on field. 1 copy of your Simoic Burst Sovereignty. This is summon Miss Value Apex Avion. 1 copy of your Crystron Halki Firebrax, usually going to be summoning Plague Spreader or your A-Fang, depending on situation. 1 copy of your Union Carrier. Union Carrier is just to get Thunderbird on the field in the first place. 1 copy of Reaper Docus. This is because Simorg says you have to include at least 1 Wing Beast monster, so Reaper Docus changes cards to Wing Beast, so that's nice. 1 copy of your IP Masquerade to make Crusadia Avramax on your opponent's turn. And finally 1 copy of Link Cross, just to generate tokens so that you can go into even more synchro plays. So that's the deck. It's a very, very fun deck, honestly. It's a combo deck, but it doesn't really have the feel of a combo deck where you're just taking like orchestrated lines. It's like you're making your own lines, and the lines highly depend on your hand, and that's kind of what I like a ton about the deck. And do comment down below if you did enjoy the deck. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, as it really does help the channel a lot. And I guess I'll see you next time. Goodbye.